This is the story of the Christmas of 1963, which is when I learned what it means to be a giver of gifts. But this isn't just my story. It's also my mother's. My mother's name was Josephine Mary Knowles Hoggatt, and sometimes she didn't make any sense to me. She used to say she could be really tall, 11 feet 4 inches, which is as tall as a real giraffe or an elephant with its trunk stuck straight up in the air. I don't need to be tall all the time, Mother said, but when I'm at my very best, I'm 11 foot 4. There were 8 children in our house. Me, my sister, our 3 brothers, and our 3 cousins. Our cousins lived with us because my uncle was away in the Navy and couldn't take care of them. Now, if you lined us all up by height, Mother would stand right in the middle. Even though she was a grown-up, she was really short, just 4 feet 11 inches tall. Now, I know 3rd graders who are taller than my mother. How could she be 11 foot 4? What I meant, Mother would say, is that I am tall on the inside. That didn't make any sense either. How could you be tall on the inside and short on the outside? Where did you find room inside for extra tallness? I could understand Mother wishing she was tall on the outside, to reach for things in the high cupboard or wash the tops of windows, and especially to decorate the Christmas tree. You should have seen her Christmas tree. It was the best Christmas tree anyone ever saw. It was 12 feet tall. So, when Mother said she had to be 11 foot 4 to make Christmas happen, I thought she meant that she pretended to be tall in order to hang all of the ornaments. Only pretending didn't help. She still had to stand on a chair. Every year, she would wrap the tree in great big lights that glowed softly. Then she would tuck in tiny twinkling lights. Next came long strands of popcorn strings, and then the store-bought ornaments she got from friends, and after that all the handmade ones that we brought home from Sunday school. There were paper plate angels with faces of us 8 children pasted on them. There were plaster of Paris handprints so heavy they pulled the tree branches to the floor. There were walnut halves with tiny statues of baby Jesus glued inside. My Sunday school teacher called each one the gospel in a nutshell. At the very top of Mother's Christmas tree perched a wonderful porcelain angel she had inherited from my grandmother. The angel was always the last decoration, and family tradition said it was supposed to be put in place by the youngest child in the family. This was a problem, because the youngest child, my cousin Pudge, was too short to reach the treetop, even when he stood on a chair. My older brother John solved the problem with a brass ring, a paperclip, and a fishing pole. He sewed the brass ring to the back of the angel's dress. He tied the paperclip to the fishing line and hooked it to the ring. He used the fishing pole to lower the angel into place like a crane operator. When everything was ready, Pudge got to turn on the lights. And all at once, like magic, it was Christmas. Underneath my mother's Christmas tree were lots of presents, more presents than I could count. And that had to be a lot, because by the time I left kindergarten, I could count to 100 with my eyes closed. There had to be lots of presents because there were so many of us children. Joyce, John, Jim, me, Joel, and our cousins, Nathan, Vicky, and Pudge. I remember the day I discovered where the presents came from. Back in the corner of the living room was a little door. Behind that door was a tiny room Mother called the snake room. "Don't ever go in the snake room," Mother warned us. "Why not?" I asked. "It's full of snakes." "What do snakes eat?" I asked. "They eat each other," she said. "And spiders, and little boys. I wasn't a little boy. I was 8 years old. I had to see for myself. I went into the snake room. It ruined Christmas for me that year. It turned out the snake room was where Mother hid her Christmas presents before she wrapped them. It's lonely knowing that on Christmas morning you're going to have to pretend to be surprised. So I showed Jolie the presents, too. Who wants to pretend alone? Every year, then, it was the same. Mother found a 12-foot Christmas tree, covered it in lights and decorations, saw her porcelain angel placed on top, and made sure that underneath there were more presents than a person could count. Not that counting mattered. When I was 7, I found out that Mother didn't count the presents either. She said, "You shouldn't keep track of how many presents you give or get, or measure the worth of a gift by how much it costs." Mother, you see, was what grown-ups call a romantic. That meant she loved things grand and good and beautiful. She was extravagant, too, which meant she never kept track of what a gift might cost. She said that Christmas was God's extravagant gift to us. Then she said, "If God gives extravagant gifts, why shouldn't we?" Then one year, everything changed. My uncle left the Navy, got married, and took our cousins back to live with him. My older sister Joyce and brother John grew up all at once and moved away too. Then our father left. We went from being a big family to just Mother and 3 of her children, Jim, me, and Jolie. Then Mother said we couldn't afford to live in such a large house anymore. So we moved away too. For the first time, there was no money for a Christmas tree, not any tree at all. Mother went out behind the tiny little house where we had moved. Some old boards had been left in a pile. With a hammer, she pulled out a bunch of nails. Back in the house, we helped her move aside the sofa. She took down the picture of Jesus from the wall and hammered the nails in the shape of a large triangle. She used more nails to tack up 2 or 3 strands of lights, some strings of popcorn, a few of the store-bought ornaments, and some of the handmade ornaments we made in Sunday school. She added one final nail above the point of the flat triangle Christmas tree, and there she hung her mother's porcelain angel, using the brass ring John had sewn in the back of the angel's gown. Mother gave the signal to Jolie. He turned the switch that made the lights come on, and like magic, it was Christmas. But it was different from all our other Christmases. It was the first time I ever saw my mother cry. Was it because she missed the 12-foot Christmas tree, or because she knew that the only presents we would get that year were things we would have gotten anyway? Underwear, socks, T-shirts? I didn't know for sure. I sat down beside her, and my tiny little mother put her head on my shoulder. In all her life, she said, she had never felt so small. My brothers and I made up our minds that this would never happen to our mother again. We began to save our money. We washed the neighbor's car for 50 cents one time, and we put the 50 cents in a mason jar that we hid behind the books on the shelf above Jim's bed. We walked old ladies to their cars at the grocery store up the road. And sometimes they gave us a dime. Sometimes they pretended we weren't there. Then Mr. Cavender, the owner, chased us away with a meat cleaver. He'd been cutting up meat to sell. We never went back after that. We helped Mr. Flory put up the lights for the Christmas tree lot next to his peanut stand. He gave us each a quarter for that. And we collected soda pop bottles and turned them in for their California redemption value. In 1963, that was 3 cents each. On the first Monday of December, my brother Jim counted up the money. $4.57. As soon as Mother left for the grocery store, we sneaked off to Mr. Flory's Christmas tree lot. He had saved a tree just for us. It was the only tree that could be had for $4.57. We didn't care that this tree was shorter and more lopsided than the trees Mother used to find, or that it had branches only on one side. We carried it home. Then we moved the sofa, we took down the picture of Jesus, Jim tied a string to the top of the tree, and we hung it on the wall like a picture. I began to hang a strand of those big Christmas tree lights that give off a soft glow, and then another strand of smaller twinkling lights. Jolie went in the kitchen and made popcorn strings to weave through the branches. Jim got out Mother's ornaments, and we hung some of the store-bought ones and some of the handmade ones. Jim put a nail in the wall above the top of the tree and hung our grandmother's porcelain angel by the brass ring on the back of her gown. Then we went into the kitchen to wait. It was dark when Mother came through the back door. She stepped into the house and hesitated a moment. She knew something was different in the house, but I don't know what gave it away. Maybe it was the tiny bits of popcorn on the floor we had forgotten to sweep up. Maybe it was that we were sitting in the dark. We were so excited we had forgotten to turn on the lights. I think it was the smell of pine needles. As Mother followed her nose down the hallway, we squirmed. And just as she turned the corner into the living room, Jolie turned on the lights. And all at once, like magic, it was Christmas. And it was the second time I saw my mother cry. I thought at first that she cried because our little tree was nothing like the 12-foot trees we had all those years. Then I thought she must be crying because she was happy. Or maybe because she knew all at once that we were going to be all right. I'm still not sure. But I can tell you why I cried that day. The three of us boys had looked across the room at Mother, and she stood up straighter. Each of us straightened. We stood tall, taller than we'd ever been, tall as we could. For the first time in our lives, we knew what it felt like to be taller than a real giraffe or an elephant with its trunk stuck straight up. We were our very best. We were romantic. We were extravagant. We were, each of us, 11'4". We were tall and wise. For that Christmas we received what Mother wanted more than any present she put under any tree. We learned what it means to be a giver of gifts.